Yo, hey, this shit easy, nigga. Hey, all I'm talking about, nigga, I'm still out here trying to get it.
Contender Regime Boxing, checking back in with y'all, man. What's good? So, I was just thinking, man, about the fights that we got coming up, the ones that are already scheduled, dates, venues, like Devin Haney versus George Kambosos, Errol Spence versus Yordenis Ugas, Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez, so many great fights, but if you just look at the landscape of boxing and you look at what could potentially take place in the year 2022, it's really and truly an incredible time for the sport of boxing. It's an incredible time to be a boxing fan. Yeah, we deal with so much politics and bullshit and so much shit that as a real boxing fan, man, that really, put energy, time, effort, and money into the sport, just showing our support, man, and just really getting behind the fighters that we support, and just getting behind the sport as a whole, man. It's a lot of shit that we deal with that we shouldn't have to, but at the same time, you gotta appreciate the good times and the good moments that you have within the sport of boxing. And right now, this is one of those good times because if you look at April, it's jam-packed with great fights, great matchups. You seen the poll that I put up. That was only 5 fights. You can only do 5 on the poll, but there's even undercard matches that's going to be good. There's other fights. The fucking Imantas Stanionis and Butayev fight. I could even fit that on there. That's a great fight. You dig what I'm saying? So, but one thing that I wanted to mention is, as you see in the title, what could possibly take place this year? Now, you see the names that I have in the title. What do they all have in common? They're all black American fighters. Now, I think this is significant. You dig what I'm saying? Just for me personally, I would love to see all of these guys be successful and do great things, but they all are in a very, advantageous and just a beautiful position. They're in a position to make history. They're in a position to do something amazing. You have Jermell Charlo, who can become, I believe, the first undisputed champion at 154 in the 4-belt era. You have Devin Haney, who has an opportunity to become undisputed versus George Kambosos, the first in the 4-belt era. You have Errol the True Spence Jr., if he can get past Yordenis Ugas, and you have Terence Crawford, if he gets past the guy that he's going to fight in the meantime before fighting Errol Spence at the end of the year, assuming that all of that shit plays out how we want it to play out. Both of those guys have an opportunity to become the first undisputed champion at welterweight in the 4-belt era. The last one was Zab Judah, and no disrespect to Zab, I love Zab Judah, but they called him undisputed. He only had 3 belts. It was 4 belts at the time. He didn't have all 4 belts. In my opinion, it's an asterisk by that shit, but hey, they called the man undisputed, but this will be the first 4-belt undisputed champion at welterweight ever. So, and Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas unifying 3 titles. This is the first 3-belt unification since Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather in 2015. Quite some time. But I wanted to put emphasis on this. Think about how amazing that is. You can have Devin Haney, undisputed at lightweight, Jermell Charlo, undisputed in May at 154, and at the end of the year, we can have Errol Spence Jr. or Terence Crawford or Yordenis Ugas, but I think, and the majority of people is gonna pick Errol Spence to beat Ugas. It ain't for show, but I'm picking Errol Spence to beat Ugas, even though when I'm gonna do an official prediction and breakdown on the fight next week, the fight next Saturday. But Errol Spence And Terence Crawford, assuming Terence Crawford gets past his next opponent, if he even fights somebody, he might just wait on Errol Spence, which I'm cool with that too. I would prefer for him to fight somebody just so he can stay active. And you know, I spoke on that in the couple of videos ago. But either way, it's cool with me. As long as I get Errol Spence and Terence Crawford at the end of the year, I'm cool. I just seen Errol Spence. You know, I seen his Last Stand podcast interview. He touched on the Terence Crawford fight. He spoke very candidly and open about that fight. And then also, you know, Brian Custer asked him. He said, by the end of this year, I want you to finish this line for me. He said, by the end of this year, Errol Spence Jr. will be what? And Errol Spence said, I will be considered one of the greatest 147-pound fighters of all time. You know, so you know what's on his mind. Undisputed. Terence Crawford. And I'm sure Terence Crawford feels the same way. So, think about that. Let that shit sit on your mind. You know, all these fighters that I just named, they all got haters. You know, they all got detractors. Devin Haney, Jermell Charlo, Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. These are some of the best fighters on the planet. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Devin Haney get enough credit. I don't think Jermell Charlo get enough credit. I don't think Errol Spence get enough credit. I don't think Terence Crawford get enough credit. You know what I'm saying? These are all some of the best fighters on the planet. You feel me? Some of the best fighters on the planet. You dig what I'm saying? 3 of them, shit, all of them could be top 5 pound for pound if they do what they supposed to do this year. You know what I'm saying? But 3 of them for sure can be top 5 pound for pound on your list. Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, and Jermell Charlo, they can be top 5 right now. All 3 of them. 2 of them already is top 5. So just let that shit sit on your mind, what we got coming up this year. It's so many great matchups. It's so many great opportunities for these fighters. And I just wanted to shed some light on this. You got 4 black American fighters that can be undisputed in 20, all in the same year. That shit crazy. It's a lot on the table. It's a lot at stake right now. It's a lot at stake right now, man. And it's a great time for boxing fans. But I just wanted to put that, if y'all ain't even thought about that shit, I just wanted to put that shit on y'all mind. Because I feel like all of these guys that I named, you know, you got to put some respect on their name, bro. But at the same time, they got to go out there and earn that shit. Devin Haney got to go beat Kambosos. That ain't going to be easy. It might look easy, but it ain't going to be easy. Jermell Charlo, he got to make adjustments and go in there and take Brian Castano's head off. He got to go in there and beat Brian Castano. Castano ain't finna go in that bitch and lay down. Errol Spence got to get past Ugas. He might make it look easy, but that shit ain't going to be easy. You know, and then he got to get past Terence Crawford. That shit definitely ain't going to be easy. And Terence Crawford going to have to get past Errol Spence. He going to have to beat Errol the True Spence Jr. He going to have to beat Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia. This shit ain't going to be easy, but look at the opportunity. It's a beautiful time for boxing, man. It's a beautiful time. Last year we had, you know, undisputed fights. You know what I'm saying? But this is the year for Undisputed. The year for Undisputed has been revamped. You know what I'm saying? The year for Undisputed has been revamped. You dig what I'm saying? Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. How do y'all feel about the potential of having Devin Haney, Jermell Charlo, and Errol Spence or Terence Crawford becoming undisputed in 2022? Don't that shit sound beautiful? Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments, man. Contender regime, boxing. I'll holla at y'all boys, man.